She's the financial program administrator, but really we just call her the the financial administrator. She is the one back there putting together those packets and that was passing out packets as we started. Larry Hill is our trainer. He unfortunately had to leave. So you're stuck with me. My name is Mindy Whitehead. I am the Bureau Chief over the Consumer Directed Care Plus program. So, what is CDC Plus? CDC Plus is an alternative to the main waiver program. So, most of you, I'm sure, are aware of APD's iBudget waiver program. It is Home and Community-Based Waiver Program, or HCBS. It is a C waiver, for those of you who know all the waiver numbers and what they are. It is the main waiver program for individuals with developmental or intellectual disabilities in the state of Florida. And you have to be on that waiver before you can join CDC Plus. We are a J waiver, or a self-directed waiver, that is contained within that C waiver. Yes? Yes. iBudget goes by med waiver. It goes by the big waiver, because we used to have a large waiver and a small waiver. So some people still call it the big waiver. HCBS waiver, all things that they call us. It is officially called the iBudget waiver. It is also, iBudget waiver is run through the iConnect program. So if you hear iConnect, it's all the same thing. So CDC Plus is, like I said, it's a self-directed program. On CDC Plus, you have more flexibility of spending and of who your providers are than you do on the main waiver, on that iBudget waiver program. It is, within the program, you have your WSC takes a little bit of a step back, not a full step back, but they just step back a little bit, and they become your consultant. All right, you're there to answer questions. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, waiver support coordinator. So your waiver support coordinator is like a case manager, right? They're the ones on the main waiver. They are the ones who help you find providers, get you names and numbers, a list of providers to call, to go see, or to call and interview and come to your house, depending on what your need is. In CDC Plus, like I said, your WSC, your waiver support coordinator, becomes a consultant. And their role changes a little bit in that they're there to help you and to guide you, but they're no longer the person looking for those providers for you. They're not the one making sure those providers get paid. They are a consultant. They're there to help, but not to run the program like they are with the iBudget waiver. In CDC Plus, you need a representative. And that representative it could be you. It could be someone you're close to, someone who knows you, someone who knows the individual who's on the waiver program. And that person is basically the manager of the program. They're going to be the person who, thank you so much for the extra chairs. Okay, thank you. So there's still more chairs still to come. All right. So, but that representative is going to be the person who's going out and looking for those providers. They're going to be the one looking at your budget and saying, this is how much we can afford to pay this person. If you need 7 hours of care a day, then we can only pay them this much, right? So that's all their responsibility. Or maybe what you really need is to retain that provider and pay them a little bit more, and you can deal with 5 hours of service a day, right? Those are all possibilities on CDC Plus. You still have the regional offices that are there to help you out, answer questions. They review documents and they send them up to state office. And then the state office is also part of your team, right? So we have a team. Right now we're about 20 people. We're in process of expanding. I'll talk a little bit about that later, because those of you who are applying or in application status, some of those new positions are really going to help you out. But we are part of the team, and we are there to help you too. So if you can't get a hold of your consultant, you can't get a hold of the regional office, you call us, and we'll help you out. All right. I don't think we were able to link our video. If you go to the CDC Plus website, you'll see this thumbnail on our front page. It's a little informational video about CDC Plus. It's a little Blackboard video. Gives you just a very, very brief overview of what the program is and whether or not it's right for you. CDC Plus is a lot of responsibility. It is not for everyone, right? It can be a lot. It can be a little overwhelming at times. Enrolling can be very overwhelming. Once you're on the program for a few years and you're going on and you've got the rhythm of it, it works a lot easier. But that first year, that enrollment through the first year can be a little, whoa, what are we doing? Okay? Remember, you don't have to be alone. You've got a team of people supporting you. You just have to reach out to us because we don't know if you're struggling or not. All right? So if you have questions, we don't know unless you ask them.
What's the website address?
The website address,
apdcares.org /CDC Plus. And plus is spelled out. But if you go just to apdcares.org and you click on waiver at the top, Consumer Directed Care Plus will be in your drop down. And you can access it.
yep. So for those of you who didn't hear that, that's apdcares.org /CDC Plus. If you're familiar with the name, if you are familiar with the main APD website, there's a green ribbon across the top. The second to last option will be waivers. If you hover over waivers, CDC or Consumer Directed Care Plus will be one of those options. Little bit of history. Florida was one of the pilot programs for self-directed waivers in the country. So we started in '98, and we participated in the research and demonstration waiver, the 1115 waiver, which was a research and demonstration waiver, which was proving that self-directed waivers are going to work, right? By 2000, CDC Plus was an implemented program in the state of Florida. We were still combined, at that point in time, we were combined with brain and spinal cord injury and Department of Elder Affairs, and then APD. So the three of us together ran the CDC Plus waiver. In 2002 was our demonstration phase. Again, we're kind of still trying to prove this is going to work, this is really a good option for folks. By 2008, it became a permanent part of the Florida Medicaid state program. And, but we were only allowed to have, in 2002, we were only allowed to have, I think, 200 people on the program? There was a whole bunch of people who wanted on CDC Plus, but we were only allowed to have 200. So by 2008, when it became a permanent part of the waiver, we were allowed to let as many people on as wanted to join. And that is where we still are today. As of March 31st, we had 4,224 people on the program. I think today that's 2,332. So we are growing. We are growing a lot. We are enrolling a lot of people every month. We've gone a long way from just 200 to the over 4,000 we have today. It's very exciting. All right. So again, I've already talked about some of these things. I told you what the that we are an alternative to the long-term care waiver program, or the HCDS waiver, or the I-budget waiver, or the big waiver, all those things, right? We are an alternative to that program in that we are contained within that waiver, and we are an option if that main waiver isn't working right for you, if you're still looking for services, if you can't find your providers, if you know what, my daughter is the only person who my son will let work with them, right? And I can hire all the providers I want, but it's only my daughter that can get him to stop doing whatever. It's alternative, so you get to hire that daughter, right? It could be something if she was interested in, she could have that job. CDC Plus operates on the principles of self-determination. Okay, so freedom of choice, freedom to decide where you live, where you work, freedom to accept the responsibilities of your actions, freedom, right? It is a, like I said, person-centered plan, and it is participant-driven. That means that the person with a disability is the person in the driver's seat. They are the ones that are taking that driver's seat role in CDC Plus. They are the ones that should be helping sculpt what services are being purchased, who they're being purchased by. all the freedoms, everything, we want them in the driver's seat in this program. All right, so the main focus of CDC Plus. What we want to do with CDC Plus is we want to provide the consumer with an opportunity to improve the quality of their lives, of their services. We want people on this program to thrive in the community, in the workplace. We want to see them be able to, like I said, just thrive. Was anyone at the self-determination session yesterday?
Yeah.
We had one of the young women that was on that panel is a CDC Plus participant. She has been able to purchase a couple of pieces of equipment that have really changed her life, that have really improved her life. One of which is a gait trainer treadmill. She was going to a PT for it. She wanted more training than she could afford going to PT all the time. She had some money saved up. So I got to see a picture of it yesterday in the session because they showed it. But it has a gait trainer, so she gets in the gait trainer and on the treadmill. It's all one piece, and she can strengthen her legs. She plays softball. She plays sports, and because she has that strength in her legs now, and she can continue to work on that. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Some people. Equipment is something that some equipment you can't get through the waiver, right? That would not be something she could purchase on the waiver. That's something that the waiver would say no. But on CDC Plus, it's an option. So you can buy things outside of what you can on the waiver. Another couple other services, right? I was just talking to someone yesterday. The waiver a long time ago, I mean back in like 2003, 2004, the waiver used to offer massage therapy. Massage therapy, like who doesn't want a massage, right? But massage therapy, if you have real static muscles, if they're real tonic and tight, massage therapy can help you keep some mobility, right? Another thing a lot of people don't know about massage therapy can actually help your bowels. If you have a rough time have it with bowels, your massage therapist can help get those moving, right? So, when massage therapy went away on the waiver, a lot of people were like, but wait, we need this. Some of those folks came to CDC Plus. Some of them are just now finding out that that's something you can purchase on CDC Plus and are coming back, or coming over to it. Help the consumer meet their identified goals and needs, right? A goal anywhere from, I want to go get my college degree, to I just want to be able to go to Alabama and visit my grandma. I can't go visit my grandma because because at grandma's house, there's no one there to help me go to the bathroom, right? With CDC Plus, that care provider can actually cross the state line. Or maybe there's a cousin that lives down the road from grandma's house. If they meet the qualifications, if they can get past the background screening, you could hire them to come over and help while I'm at grandma's house. Right? So it takes a lot of creative thinking to use the full scope of this program. But it's good to think about. And again, all of this allows the consumer to gain more independence, right? All of that is helping towards independence. Someone 23 years old has never been able to go to Alabama to see grandma. Never once been able to go there because there's no one to help once you're there. And it's too chaotic and you're too caught up, and so, well, I'll just stay home and you guys go and see grandma and we'll just stay here. We'll see it. Well, she'll come down maybe at Christmas. Maybe she'll come down Thanksgiving time. Good options. I don't know what happened to our son. Okay. It's a motion slide, I didn't know that. I'm so sorry. Okay, so the self-determination and person-centered planning, you need support, authority, control, freedom, and responsibility. Those are our self-determination, the principles of self-determination, yes? You determine what support you need. You have the authority and the control to direct those supports. You have the freedom to direct those. And also the responsibility that comes with that, right? We forget that sometimes. All of these things come with responsibility. It's not just a blank check, here, do whatever you want, right? We still have to work within the confines of our rule, of what the government allows us, what the state of Florida allows us, both federal and state. We have to operate that, and if we miss that a little bit, right, there's a responsibility that comes with that. But it's okay, because you're gonna learn the program, and you're gonna, if you have a question, you're gonna call someone, right? Good. Don't let that be scary. Doesn't need to be. All right. In order to enroll in CDC Plus, what is the eligibility criteria for CDC Plus? The first thing is that you have to be on the iBudget waiver. If you're interested in CDC Plus and you're not already on the iBudget waiver, you need to call your regional office and find out if you qualify for the waiver and what steps need to be taken to get in that pre-enrollment category or to get on the waiver. There is pre-enrollment, or what we're transitioning language. It used to be a wait list. We're now trying to call it pre-enrollment because it's stepping towards enrollment. But you have to be there. Well, you have to be off of that list and onto the waiver. Yes. Yes. You have to live in your own home or your family home. All right. Basically, you can't live in a group home, and you can't live in what we call an institutional setting, right? You can't live in an ICF or an ALF, an assisted living facility, a nursing home. Those are not living situations where you can also be on CDC Plus. It has to be your own home or your family home.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What if after you get on CDC Plus, let's say my son is living with me, I
Mhm.
get CDC Plus, then we feel like, I don't know, like a group home is a better setting. Can I use the money to put in there?
No, but you go back to the waiver and they will fund the group home. So once you're on CDC Plus, it's your only option forever, okay? If you come to CDC Plus and you're like, man, this is more work than I thought, or this isn't right, this just isn't right for me, for whatever reason. Too much work, can't find the providers, want your consultant, your WSC or your waiver support coordinator find those providers for you, you can go back to the waiver. You could you could be on that waiver for 5 more years and then like, you know what? I want to give CDC Plus a shot again. I think I understand it better now because I've got a better understanding of the waiver. I'm getting the flow of how things work. You can come back to CDC. When someone goes into a group home, they typically disenroll from CDC Plus, but it doesn't mean CDC Plus is closed to them. Now, that being said, if you're interested in finding out if that group home's right or if you need respite care at a group home, we can pay for temporary group home stays, right? So I want to go to a group home for a week for respite care, and while I'm there, see if it's the right fit for me to live here too. All right, so we can help that transition, and CDC Plus dollars can be used for that transition time if there's some built up.
So CDC Plus cannot use the bottom line is I cannot use the money from CDC Plus to put him in a group home, even though I think that's a better setting for him.
Correct.
Once he's on CDC Plus.
Correct. But if you decide that, you can go back to the waiver, and then if he comes out of the group home, you can come back to CDC. The reason for that, group homes are very controlled environments, controlled in that you have to use the providers that the group home hires, right? You don't get to choose your personal care staff because the group home is going to provide that for you. So being in a group home takes away a lot of that choice and control. So that's why it's counterintuitive. You're on CDC Plus to have the choice and control. If you go into the group home, some of that is taken away just because you can't automatically select those providers. Yes.
Once you leave CDC Plus and go to a group home, now you want to go back to CDC Plus, do you have to re-enroll from the beginning, or are you in the system?
That all depends. So she's asking if, okay, so I'm on CDC Plus, I go into a group home, I'm in the group home for a while and decide, you know what, I want to go back to CDC. So yes, you can transition back and forth, but anything over if you've been off of the program for a year, you're going to have to reapply for the program. If it's less than 12 months, we can just reinstate you. Once that 12 months, once 365 days hits, we have an obligation to return any funds, to return anything to ACA, and it's kind of wiped from our system. So that means you have to reapply and go through the reapplication process. So you've got a year to come back easy. But after that year, it's not like you can't come back. You just send us another application. It takes a little bit of a process. One of the steps is going to be a little bit faster because we won't have to apply for an EIN. We just have to gain access to that EIN again. Employer identification number. I will talk about that in just a minute. Hey, you're fine. You have to select a certified CDC Plus consultant. All consultants are waiver support coordinators, but not all waiver support coordinators are consultants. Okay? Now, the people waiver support coordinators serve are very influential in their lives. I bet you didn't know that. I have many times seen waiver support coordinators say, I'm not going to do CDC Plus. I don't want to do CDC Plus. And then someone they've worked with for 20 years says, I really want to go on CDC. Would you think about it? Like, I don't know. Please, I really want to. And then they come over, all right? So don't think you're powerless. Talk to them. Talk to them a couple times if you need to. Have them call me, I'll talk to them. Have them call the region, the regions will talk to them. Yes, sir.
Do you tell the parent or the person being served what the fee for service is, the differentiation of directing your service compared to, getting the provider between the dollars of fee for services?
We don't. So I don't know if everybody heard the question, and I will repeat it to make sure that I got you correctly. You're asking if we direct the price that they pay for the services.
No,
No.
mean, I know there's a set rate for fee for service through the agency, they charge, compared to the person self-directing. So then the parent or the person who wants to self-directing will know how to save money instead of giving money to the agency where
Right.
you have no wiggle left when there's no money there, when they're charging you. Where I come from, they charge you a job coach $72.50 an hour. And
Oui.
if you have the little wiggle, they tell you go to home rehab. That money's already spent. Then you get into the next step, taking out your waiver. And there's
Gotcha.
no money left. And if you direct it, you can hire a family member to be your child coach. And have a waiver of somebody close to your son or daughter to know that they can pay them $15 an hour, and people really want jobs.
Yes. So CDC, there is no set rate of pay for CDC Plus. There is for the waiver. There is a chart on the main waiver website under providers. There is a chart that shows how much those people get paid per quarter hour. That's the trick. You have to remember that's per quarter hour, because you're looking at go $235. That's all they get per hour? No, that's per quarter hour. But you can choose to pay someone, like maybe the waiver pays $13 an hour, $15 an hour, and you're like, you know what? You're going to have to sacrifice a little bit of time, but you can opt to pay them $17. Now, I believe what he was pointing out is some agencies will overcharge you if they don't understand, or if they know you don't have to pay them the waiver rate, and you're going with someone who knows those waiver rates, they may charge you more. Oh, well, you're on CDC Plus. It's going to be $20 an hour for you, where everything else I could pay $15. It's only, so you've got to, you're right, you've got to be a good shopper. Very good shopper. Yes, ma'am. Can a parent be a provider? Yes. Parent can be a provider. You cannot be both the representative and the provider. You have to pick a role. You cannot be on CDC Plus, be the representative, and be paid to provide services. You can't own an agency that you're going to hire. Okay, right? Reps cannot, and this is a federal requirement. This is not something the state of Florida or I've made up, right? This is federal government has said anyone with a 1915J waiver needs to have a representative, a person to represent them on the program, and that person cannot be paid. Yes, ma'am, you had another question.
So can I get together, because that's what I was thinking, can I get together with a couple of families and have our kids rent a house and have our kids live there and hire a caregiver
Yes.
to encourage independence with CDC Plus paid for?
Yes.
So that's not called group home?
Correct.
Oh.
A group home is licensed, see? A group home is something is a home that is licensed by APD. And then that APD is in charge of making sure that they're complying. That's a roommate situation. So she just asked, could group of people on CDC Plus rent a house and live together and have providers come in? Absolutely. We have a couple different roommate situations.
Providers come in, they cannot be on the clock with the consumers at the same time. You have to make sure that if that provider comes in that home, they bill maybe 3 hours for one consumer, and then they pick up the next consumer, but they cannot bill. It's like you can't be at McDonald's working on the clock at the same time that you're at Burger King working. Same thing with CDC. So there's no problem with them living together, but they must be off the clock if one of the consumers ain't got.
Thank you for that, Tina. Okay, so I'm going to repeat what you just said. If you're hiring one provider to work for a bunch of people on CDC, they have to bill for their time. They have to split their time and their billing between everyone, right? So, and that's because, as Tammy said, you can't work for Burger King and McDonald's at the same time, right? And everybody on CDC Plus is their own employer. They have an employer identification number with the IRS, and if the IRS audits us and says, hey, we see that Tammy was working for Paul, John, and Sally all of this during the same day at the same time, they're going to come after us, they're going to come after you all, and we really want to avoid that. Yeah? So it's what Medicaid and the IRS see as double dipping, if you will. We can't do that. Duplication of services. Yes?
Can a PCA and an OT be on the clock at the same time?
A PCA and a who?
An OT or a PT or a behavioral therapist?
Yeah, I have to check. My instinct, I'm not looking at the handbook. I read the handbook every day, guys. Not every piece of it, but I look things up all the time. I would have to verify, but yes, I believe there are some services and some therapies where if you need someone to be there and learn how that therapy is going, like I know behavior therapy is a yes. You can have a behavior therapist and a personal care working on the clock at the same time, because that personal care person is being trained by that behavior therapist. But I'd have to look that up, but that's a very good question. She asked if a PT and a PCA could be together at the same time. Yes, ma'am, in the blue?
Can a representative be one parent and the provider be another parent?
Absolutely. She asked if a rep could be one parent and the other parent be the provider. Absolutely. And you know what? We have some families that break it up that way and they change every 6 months. So dad's the provider for 6 months and mom's the rep. Then for the next 6 months, mom's the provider and dad's the rep. And they just flip back and forth. Who knows? Yes, ma'am, yes.
Two questions. Going back, you said you must reapply again if you switch. Do you mean for the waiver altogether or just the C versus J?
Okay, so she is asking if you go off of CDC Plus and you have to reapply to come back, if you have to reapply for the waiver, or if you just have to reapply to CDC. You just have to reapply to CDC. Once you're in the waiver until you tell the waiver, I don't want you anymore. Go ahead, yes.
I think she asked the question and you answered it, but the second bullet was living your own home or family home, but the person could be renting.
Oh, yes.
An apartment.
Yes, a rented home counts as your own home. Yeah? It can't be something that's controlled by someone else, essentially. Someone else is controlling the provider. Someone else is controlling, right. Yes, ma'am. I think I saw you next. I'll come to you after that. Mm-hmm.
So, if one of my daughters moves out into a boyfriend's house or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, is that the same that will follow her, like with her boyfriend, or is that? Do you think it's like they each have their own?
They're each
They
and
can't have the same caregiver charging at the same time.
correct.
Two
Yeah.
separate ones.
Mm-hmm. Or have a provider that's going to switch. Yeah. So she was asking if someone's on the waiver. On the waiver, they have ratios. You can have a provider at a 1-to-1 ratio, at a 1-to-2 ratio, one provider to 2 consumers. I'm trying to work with the waiver to make them understand that on CDC everybody's a 1-to-1. All right. So I am working on that. We've got a little bit of a gap to bridge. But if you're at it can only be 1-to-1 on CDC for the reason of, now, I could be looking after 2 individuals that are both on CDC, and I could have them for 8 hours of the day. but I'm gonna bill for Johnny for 4 hours and for Sally for 4 hours. I can't bill for both of them 8 hours, right? Again, can't work at McDonald's or Burger King at the same time. I love that analogy, Tammy. Yes, ma'am.
How long does a person have to be on the I-waiver before they can apply for the CDC Plus?
So as soon as you're enrolled in iBudget and you have a cost plan, you can apply for CDC. Now, I will tell you, it's not gonna be an automatic enrollment. CDC Plus enrollments take time. I'll get there in just a minute because I'm gonna talk through that enrollment process. But CDC Plus enrollment, from start to finish, from point of application to I'm managing my own budget, takes about 6 months, okay? 4 to 6 months, average. A lot of people, it takes 6 months. Some people can get on, it depends on how active you are, but again, we're gonna talk about that in just a minute. Can I get through a couple more slides? I know you all have lots and lots of questions. Yes, ma'am. If you're on the waiver, you're old enough. She asked how old you have to be on CDC. So the other thing you have to do is take a CDC Plus training. Learn how to run the program. We have a self-directed training option. I'm telling you guys, don't do it.
Oh, thank God.
Don't do it. Don't do the self-directed option. Your consultant may even say, oh, look, it's self-directed. You just take this self-directed training. It's just so easy. This is the best way to do it. I hear consultants say it all the time. I'm telling you, don't do it. Our trainer, Larry, I wish he could have stayed. I'm sorry he had to go, but listen, he is one of the best trainers I've ever seen. And he walks you through, and he shows you where the resources are, and he goes through that training and our website and all the things you need to know. It is 4 hours. Who wants to sit through 4 hours, right? I'm telling you, it's worth it, okay? You also, at the end of that, not only do you benefit from someone walking you through everything, but you benefit from the questions the other people ask, and by the end of it, you get to know Larry pretty well. And you know that you can call him and you feel more comfortable calling CDC. You feel comfortable calling our customer service and saying, hey, I have a question. When you sit at home and you do that training by yourself, and you're trying to read over that material, it's a lot. It's a lot, I am telling you. Trying to understand and grasp all of that on your own, I don't recommend it. I commend the people who do it. It is an option. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying it's worth taking the training. Now, if you do decide to self-train and you come on CDC Plus and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so lost, I don't know what I'm doing, you can go back and take that training at any point in time. We don't care if you've been on the program for 15 years and you say, you know what, I want to take the training again. We say, hey, welcome. We don't even know. Half the time, we don't even check to see if you're an existing representative or not. All right? We're just happy people are signing up for training. We'll catch it, when we'll catch it is if you take the readiness review. That's when well, they're already a rep. But if you're just taking the training and you're already a rep, you don't need to take the readiness review. You have to, after taking the training, you have to take a readiness review, whether you self-study or take our training online. I take the live training. It is web-based, but it is live. Larry's really there on the other end of the microphone, on the other end of the camera. You have to pass it with 85% or better. Now, it's not a test. People always say, oh, I took the test, where's my results? It's not a test, it's a review. And the reason I'm making that distinction is because it's an open book, open note, open friend. What we want to know is that you know how to navigate the resources we've given you to find the answers you need. We don't want to test and make sure you know all the information. I don't know all the information, right? I just got a question and said I have to go back and look at the handbook. Because I don't know, I have to review. I don't think there's a person out there that can keep all of this information in their head, right? That's why we have resources, you look it up, oh geez, I read that, it made no sense. I feel like I just read blah, 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 blah. So I'm gonna call somebody and ask them what blah, 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 blah means, right? But if you call me up and say, well, what is this? I don't know. I'll say, did you read the handbook? And if you say no, I'll say, go read the handbook and come back to me with your questions, right? So read it first. All right, monthly budget. CDC Plus, like I said, CDC Plus is a part of the iBudget waiver. All of the money for CDC Plus, any money you're gonna have to pay for services, pay for those services or supplies, is all gonna come from money based on the waiver, okay? You have a waiver cost plan. You get a percentage of that in CDC Plus. You don't get it all. You only get part of it, all right? 92%, you get a discounted rate. There is a 6% that comes off the top, okay? Then there is an additional fee. The 6% helps us stay, well, they both help us stay cost neutral. And then there is an administrative fee. So you have the discounted rate, and the administrative fee is either 4% or $160. It is whichever gives the consumer more money. All right, we take the lesser. So I think $4,000 monthly budget is where that breaking point is. All right, between 4% and $160. So again, it's whichever gives the consumer more money is which we take, whether it's the 4% or the 160. Okay.
Brothers' hours have been cut a third, and the cost per acre is so low.
It's-
So I'm applying, now what happens?
Okay. Well, I'll get there in a minute. And if I don't, come talk to me. Okay. Again, you've got the flexibility with that monthly budget. We've talked a lot about the flexibilities of that monthly budget. What we do is we take that year-long cost plan, we take out the fee, or we break it down into 12s, right? What you get each month, you get an even amount each month, unless your cost plan changes. Then we have to do it all again. But then it's up to you how that money is spent, all right? CDC Plus, like I've said before, CDC Plus allows for a larger array of services than the iBudget waiver. Our services, most of our services have different names, and those that have the same name are very confusing. We're working on it. We're not there yet. I don't know. We've made some suggestions with our handbook. It's still routing through legal. I don't know when it's going to be promulgated. But ResHab on the waiver means group home. ResHab on CDC Plus does not mean group home. Right? I've already said you can't be group home in CDC. But a parent could provide ResHab to their child. How's that? You have to read the service definition. All right. I've talked about our team, right? The participant, they're the ones in the driver's seat. They're the ones that stop up top. If they are capable of directing their own services and writing their own purchasing plans and taking that role as a representative, they are more than welcome to be their own representative. We have almost 300 people on CDC Plus who are their own representative. Okay? It's not an impossible thing. When can you not be your own representative? When you can't do those duties. Now, we do have a handful of people who are probably capable of being their own representative, but they have a guardian that is over their government resources. They can't be their own representative. Okay? Because we are government resources, we are government money. So if they've relinquished that right, or someone has taken that right from them, whichever way it worked, could have been either way, they can't be their own representative.
Are you speaking of a guardian advocate?
Only if that guardian advocate is fully in control of government resources. So some guardian advocates are, some aren't. It all depends on how it's written up.
Even if the participant's a minor?
No. All representatives have to be 18. Thank you very much for that question. Yes, so if they're 18 and they can handle these things. They also, if to be your own rep, you also have to take the training, you also have to pass the readiness review. You don't get a free pass just because, well, it's consumer directed on the consumer, right? You still have to take the training, you still have to take that readiness review. Your consultant, again, we talked about their roles. I think we've talked about the APD team. The only people on this list we haven't talked about is the Fiscal. This is the program Fiscal Employer Agent. Right now, that is Mainsol. Doesn't mean anything. Mainsol. MAINS''L. They're the people who write the checks. They're the people who are monitoring the bank accounts, making sure what comes in, what goes out. Once you're on CDC Plus, you'll say, oh my gosh, I get a monthly statement that I'm supposed to reconcile, but it comes a month and a half late every month. That's because, you won't remember this, but I'll tell you, that is because Mainsol reconciles the accounts, reconciles the bank account, then they send it to us, and we reconcile it, and then we can send out the monthly statements. So that bank account has to be reconciled before we send it to you to reconcile. All of it's to make sure your money is where it's supposed to be, right? We don't want the bank going, oh, no one's looking at this account. I can take some of this, right? So we keep a check and balance system because we want to make sure the consumers are getting every penny they deserve. I think I've mentioned everything on this slide too. The participant is the decision maker. They're the person who's going to be the trainee. They are the employer. Whether they are the representative or not, they are the employer. It is their name that is given to the IRS. It is their name that has the employer identification number. They're the one that is the employer. Regardless of age, regardless of ability, regardless of guardianship, they are the one that is the employer. All right? If they're the... Yes.
So the participant would be the individual that's disabled? Or
Yes.
Because that's the participant. So when you say provider, is the provider the person that's working, that's
Yes.
employed?
Yes.
And the participant is the one that hires them?
Yes.
Okay.
So the participant is the employer, they're the ones that hire. The provider is the individual providing the services. Could be a provider or a representative.
Provider.
Okay.
I see provider.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. If they're the representative, they are the authorized signer. On some documents for the in enrollment, they will have to sign those documents because they're the employer. They're also the manager of the CDC Plus program. If they have a representative, the representative does all of those things, with the exception of they're not the employer. So the representative will have all those same duties, again, with the exception of they will be acting on behalf of the employer, but they're not the employer, right? So they will have the power, the participant gives them the power to hire those people, to fire the people, to manage those work relations, but they're still not the employer, right? They're just the representative, they're representing that consumer. They cannot be paid, they have to be 18. They cannot benefit at all from any entity being hired. So you can't, well, I have a provider agency and I'm going to be the representative and I'm going to hire my provider agency to come in and work with my daughter. Unfortunately, you can't hire your own provider agency, right? Because you're financially benefiting. Okay. Your consultant, again, I've talked over a lot of this. WSC that's trained, they are not the decision maker. They are not going to hire your employees. They are not going to look for your employees for you. They are not going, you have to write a purchasing plan that shows us how you're going to spend that money. They are not to do it for you, and you don't want them to, okay? Listen, every now and then there's a consultant out there who's gonna be really nice, and I'll just write that for you. Well, what you needed was 7 hours of care, and they wrote an authorization for 4 hours. What you promised someone was $23 an hour, and they've only written a plan for them to get 15. And all of a sudden, everybody's mad because that consultant didn't do it right, but it wasn't their job to begin with, right? So you're in control, or you're representing the person in control. Be in control. Take that control. Don't be afraid of control. Control could be good. Yeah? CDC Plus. You want to go on CDC Plus to have that control. Own it. They will review all the documents you write before you send them in. Make sure they're okay. They're not perfect. They'll probably make some mistakes. They'll probably miss something every now and then. We'll have to send it back for corrections. That's okay. We get it corrected. We move on. Right? We're all human. And they continue to make sure you have Medicaid eligibility. That is something they do for you on the waiver. That is something they will continue to do for you once you're on CDC Plus. Your regional liaisons. How many of you know your regional liaison? Yep, that's about right. I saw 2 hands total. That sounds about right, because no one calls the regional office very much, and that's okay. They're busy people. They have a lot of hats. They do a lot of roles. But they are an APD employee, and they are there to help. They're your primary contact. If you can't get a hold for your consultant, if your consultant has a question, they'll call their regional liaisons. If the regional liaison doesn't know, they call us. We're on teams all day long with our regional liaisons. Some of them, it was really good. We got to meet some of them. We get to see them face to face here. We don't always get to see them face to face. It's always fun.
Mindy?
Yes.
Are the regional liaisons, are they supposed, when we reach out to them, are they, I mean,
Are they going to call you back?
yeah.
Maybe. So,
I'm serious.
I'm serious too, and I don't mean to sound funny about that.
I don't wanna dog them, but they don't, okay?
There are some listen, regional liaisons right now in some regions. Those regional liaisons are not just CDC Plus liaisons, but they're also liaisons for the waiver. And then they're often the folks that get pulled if there are vacant positions in their region. They're the ones covering those duties. So they're also going out and doing group home monitoring, some of them, in some regions. Some regions they're also answering the phones at the front desk. Some of them, so those people, those individuals are amazing at what they do, and they are pretty good, and they're amazing at directing the services, but sometimes they can't return the call. Sometimes it's hard for them to return the call because they've got a laundry list of things to do in a day that's longer than their day is. All right, just being honest.
But they're considered primary.
They are, but consultants are not shy about contacting us. We talk to consultants all day long too. They call us, and you guys can call us. So if your liaison is bogged down, isn't able to answer questions, isn't able to get back to you, you've been waiting for a week, call us, right? If you've never, we will also help bridge that gap between you and your consultant, right? You're trying to get in touch with your regional liaison because you haven't heard from your consultant in 2 months. And you're supposed to hear from them every month. So someone give us a call. So I'm very sorry to hear that. So call us. We'll help bridge that gap, okay? We do it all the time. Regional liaisons also oversee the corrective action plans. All right, so let's say oops, I messed up on something. I allowed my provider to bill for both of my children at the exact same time. The timesheets matched. They didn't divide their hours. I forgot. I'm sorry, I just forgot. The first time we'll say, hey, reminder, you can't do this. Second time we'll say, hey, we've already reminded you, you're gonna have to go on a corrective action plan. It's just a formality. I know, it sounds so horrible, but again, it's part of our agreement with the federal government. And it's just it's a formal thing acknowledging, oops, and here's how I'm gonna correct it, right? It's not as, it sounds big and bad and awful. People say all the time we put corrective action plans in place because we want to kick people off the program. That is not true. That is not true at all. We put a corrective action plan in place because we want to acknowledge there's an oops, there's something that needs to be corrected, and we all want to be on the same page getting that corrected, right? It's part of our way that we support you. It's not punishment, it's support. I know it doesn't feel like it all the time. Nobody likes their mistakes being pointed out to them. Nobody likes that. I don't know anybody who says, oh, thank you for pointing out all my flaws, right? but it's really just a way to get it to all be on the same page, and it's your documentation, right? So if you're audited and they say, hey, you can't keep doing this, say, oh yeah, but I know that now, and here, look, see, we have a plan in place and I'm working towards this.
Mindy?
Yes?
Okay, I don't know if you went over that. So if you're on iBudget already, who do you call to apply for the CDC Plus? The same person?
Your WSC,
Or the work wage?
your waiver support coordinator.
Oh,
If they don't know how to apply for CDC Plus, I think we have a slide in here where I can show you. I think I've gone through all of our APD's state office rules. We're the administrator of the program. We do quality assurance monitoring. Every now and then you'll get an email from someone saying, hey, we need to see your timesheets for the past year. Your invoices that are over $100. We're not picking on you. We are required to do audits. That's all it is. We're just checking. Because we don't see them. When you submit payroll, we don't see your timesheets. We trust you. You're submitting the hours that are on the timesheet. Every now and then we have to pull them and verify. Okay? We are the fiscal, and we do the fiscal and payroll duties. We are the FEA, so we are the fiscal employer agent for every consumer. When you sign on to CDC Plus, one of the forms you have to sign is giving us control to talk to the IRS on your behalf, to submit the taxes on your behalf. All right, so that's part of what we do there. We provide customer service and technical assistance. Again, you got questions, you call us. We help you out. And then we also develop and update the training materials, right? We provide the training, we update all those materials. Everyone who's going to be a provider that's going to be in the same room as the consumer providing services must complete a level 2 background screening through the Florida Clearinghouse. Yes, ma'am.
If you don't use all the funds, does it roll over the following year?
Yes.
Does it roll over month to month, so like if
Yes.
your child goes to the hospital?
So, yes, I will, they ask, if you don't use all your funds in the year and the month and the whatever, what happens to the money, right? It stays with CDC Plus. Now, we are required to do a reinvestment. We try to do those every year. We're getting back to that yearly. We have some processes that we have to clean up, and then we'll be back doing it yearly.
What is that?
The reinvestment, that's when we do sweep the money back to ACA, but you have a say. You get to say, you know what, I didn't put it on my plan, but I'm really saving for that gate trainer treadmill. I just haven't written the plan for it yet, right? So you get a chance to dispute or say, hey, no, wait. You get a chance.
So you reach out to the people and say, we're taking your money back, and you have this money left over?
We'll send a letter out that says, we have a plan to reinvest this much money, and give you the means by which to say, please don't. You will be notified, and you will have a chance to say, no, wait.
I have a question.
Yes.
I was wondering, I heard y'all gonna be having changes. So what kind of changes are coming?
Coming to CDC?
Yes.
We're talking about those in the very next session. Stick around.
Oh, okay, all right, let's go this way.
Changes and updates, yep. All right. Ooh, I'm getting close on time. Okay. Let me see what slides we have. Hang on. Okay. This is the slide I really wanted to get through. This one right here. This is our website. This is the Consumers Resources page. This page has our handbook, our how-to guide, and the Appendix 2 how-to guide. The handbook is a really big, lengthy legal document. It is our rule. It gives all the program rules and regulations that we have to follow. The how-to guide is a lot simpler to read. It's the down and dirty ins and outs of CDC Plus. It's the day-to-day, right? So when I was a consultant, and when I was a regional liaison, I read that how-to guide every single week. It's only like 50 pages, probably less than 50 pages, and it's big print. It's got pictures. Goes by pretty quick. But that is the day-to-day guide, okay? And the Appendix 2 How Guide is where all of your forms are housed. Now, from this page, I would click here on that CDC and take me back to the main page. On that main page, just above, you remember that picture I said it was a video? If you were on our website, it goes to the video. Just above that video, there is a welcome packet. That is the CDC Plus application. The application and enrollment packet are contained within that, okay? There are ways things have to be signed. There are ways, but it's all explained within that application and enrollment. Part of the reason application and enrollment may take 4 to 6 months is one, we have to apply for an EIN number for the consumer. We actually have to ask the IRS, hey, we need an EIN number for this person. 8 times out of 10, it goes super easy and quick. We apply, we get the number. Woo! We move on. Every now and then, we run into someone who is on a self-directed waiver in another state. Every now and then, we run into someone who was self-directing services through Medicaid when they were little. They already have an EIN number. So in those cases, it takes a little bit longer. We have to reach out to the individual or their guardian and say, hey, call the IRS, get us the letter, gives us the EIN number, and then we can apply to be over that EIN number. The EIN, it stands for Employer Identification Number. The other piece that takes a long time for enrollment is the background screening. When you're first coming onto CDC Plus, you have to get access to the background screenings, clearinghouse. Once you have, that takes 7 to 10 days in a good week. It's not run by us. Sometimes it takes a lot longer. And then after that, you have to start screening your providers. So those are things that can hold up enrollment, okay? It just takes a little bit longer. That's part of why we say 4 to 6 months. That is the average. Like I said, some people enroll faster, some people take a little bit longer. All depends.
Is there a fee, clearinghouse?
No. There's no fee to register for the clearinghouse. You do have to pay for the screenings though. And those screenings are set by the provider, the person who's taking the prints, not by anyone else. Usually, yes. If they're in the clearinghouse, yeah, you just have to gain that access to the system and find their prints. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Correct. No, because all of our funding comes from the waiver. With make sure you're doing the yearly updates, and if they're not sending you an annual update form, then call them. Make sure that they're aware of your current situation. Make sure they're aware when your situation changes. Yes, I've got time for just a couple more questions. We're running out of the end, and we're going to have the next group come in here pretty quick. So, yes, ma'am.
You can have a DH in another state.
Yes, if they can have access to the clearinghouse, yes. Yes, but it has to be somewhere where the consumer is going to travel.
Well, my daughter
Right.
is a DH, was a DHA. She
Mhm.
just moved to Georgia.
Okay.
She's been out DHA for a year. So if we were to close it,
She could provide care. If she's still on the plan, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. I would encourage that, yes. CDC Plus can help families' income.
Sorry.
But you have to be careful because what happens if the consumer goes in the hospital, you can't bill. So how are you gonna continue to pay your bills if you don't get income? Right? So you've gotta consider all of those things, or, oh my gosh, the consumer had something tragic happen to the consumer and they're not around anymore. You've gotta be prepared for those things. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes. CDC Plus covers camps. Yes, ma'am. She just asked how the iBudget waiver, how that cost is determined. It's based on need. There's a QSI assessment, and then the information from that QSI goes through an algorithm, gives them a baseline amount. If that works, you stay at that amount. If you need more than that, then you have to ask for an AIM. I don't remember what AIM stands for. I'm so sorry. It's been a while since I worked over there. But there's a method by which you can ask for more. If it's necessary. Yes, ma'am. I said I saw you.